we could be alone between city lights. We don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. I was so busy looking at the chat and thinking about all the things people were saying that I completely lost track of where I was in the song and missed the cue to start the stream. So, oops, and welcome. Welcome to the stream. I'm so happy to be here with you on a Monday evening for the American stream. That's why we do it late at night when all the Europeans are sleeping. We talk about whatever we want here. We are here to talk about FPV. I am here to answer your questions. In case you're new here, here's how it works. By the way, if you're new here, say hi. Say hello in the chat. If it's your first stream or your second stream that you're catching live, I always see the same faces, and I recognize like the regulars. There's new people coming every time, and they deserve some recognition. Recognition. Hello, David Elkins. Elkins? Danny DeBeer. One Eye FPV, you're not new here. Kelly Rosal. Samuel Garcia. Evan Rightheimer. Aaron Brand. Magic Carpet Ride. Take a Flight. Bobby Bags. You're not... I've seen you before, Bobby Bags. Roby B. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to the stream. Aber the Ham. You little tricksy. We're going to take your questions. Your questions can come from the YouTube chat. And like yesterday, if you missed yesterday's stream, we got a new development. It's Blenty is actually helping produce the show. I think producer is the name for what he's being. He is helping watch the chat while I blather on. He's helping watch the chat for your questions, and he'll be picking questions from the chat for me to take. And I'll just be I'll also be looking at the chat, but he's going to be helping me. You can leave a question in the chat. You can leave a question, obviously, over here on the right side of the screen in my Discord server. This is my Discord server. And obviously, and Blunty, in case you don't know already, and I assume you do, we didn't discuss this explicitly, we definitely try to pay attention to questions from the Discord server. Doesn't mean we're going to answer every one, but we definitely like to make the patrons feel loved and get just a little bit of additional weight when deciding which questions we have time for. Because they pay me money. That's how the world works, folks. That's how the world works. I don't make the rules. I just take advantage of them. No, wait. I'm sorry. I take that back. And, of course, if you want to be 100% sure that I get your question, hit the $sign down here at the bottom of the screen. That's the super chat, and I will read the super chats throughout the stream. That is the only way to be 100% sure I'll read your question on the stream. By the way, if I don't read your question on the stream, feel free to email me. jb@joshuabardwell.com is my email. I try to answer every message that I get. I don't discriminate based on who's a patron or who's sending money. I just try and help everybody. So if you don't get your question answered on stream, don't feel hopeless. Just go email me, and then we'll figure it out. And I'm going to start today. Well, we got a question already pinned up. Kelly Rosel wants to know, how do you join the Discord? Kelly, to join the Discord, you sign up for my Patreon. The Discord server is exclusive to patrons. You can join at any level and you get access. So it's as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I've earned it, however much you decide. That's how you get on the Discord. And 661 FPV is definitely just trolling me by asking when I'm doing the giveaway winners, because I know 661 FPV is a regular, and I know that they know that I enjoy nothing more than the day I post a giveaway, people wondering when I'm going to announce the giveaway winners. So I assume you're trolling me. Well, I think the 8th is the cutoff, but I can't remember the exact date. Yeah, everyone's trolling me about that. This is why you never show weakness. Never show weakness, because they will never let you forget. Super Deluxe, good to see you there, friend. Captain Bry, good to see you there. Always good to have Super Deluxe. Super Deluxe is just fun wherever he comes. Captain Bry, of course, Captain Bry, you might be fun, but you're also an ExpressLRS dev, and that's actually why I'm glad to see you, because you're going to help answer all the ExpressLRS questions I don't know the answer to. I haven't hung out with you enough to know whether you're also a hoot at a party. I want to start today real quick with an announcement. If you are one of the lucky people to get the HDZero goggles, if you get them, do not update the firmware from the HDZero website or the GitHub repo. If you get the HDZero goggles, do not update the firmware. They are shipping with an unreleased version of the firmware on them, and the released firmware versions don't work on the goggles. So if you get your HDZero goggles in the mail, yay, so happy, you've been waiting for months. And then the first thing you do is you update the firmware by going to the HDZero website, you will brick the goggles. That will be very, very sad. Sorry. You won't brick them. It says you won't be able to go back to the 901 firmware until it's made publicly available. So apparently they won't be bricked, but you won't be able to make them work again until they release the 901 firmware, which they haven't done yet. So don't flash the firmware to those goggles, or you're going to be very, very sad. Why would the firmware not work for the goggles, therefore? I'm guessing, and this is pure guess, that there is some hardware change between the V1 and the V2 goggles. And the new firmware, the old firmware is not compatible with the new hardware. So the 901 firmware will then be compatible with both sets of hardware, but it's not released yet. So I just want to get that out there, because I would hate for somebody to go through that experience. It would be a downgrade. Yeah, you would be down, but you might not notice that you were downgrading the goggles. Oh my God, we have 9 messages queued up already. I want to, yeah, okay. Well, let's get into it. First question is from Magneto. Do you know if Fat Shark will release new goggles anytime soon? Something like analog digital, like the HDO goggles. I'm not a fan of the HDO size and weight. So first of all, I don't know. what Fat Shark's plans are, but like Fat Shark is not known for rushing new goggles to market. The Dominator goggles came out a little more than a year ago, I think. Then we got the Scout HD, and I would imagine that Fat Shark will sort of coast on that work for a while. I don't know of any specific plans to release a new goggle, and I would love to be wrong. But that would be like if I was a betting man, and remember to win a bet, you only need like 51% odds, right? So I have a little bit. I have no equity in this bet, if you will, to use gambling terms. So, I would say that it's 51% likely that they will not release a new goggle in the next year, let's say. And if I'm wrong, well, maybe I'm wrong. No, I don't know of any specific plans in that respect. Steve Tricks, thank you for a $10 super chat. Have you seen the T-Motor G4 with FetTech Alpha and matching D-Shot 2400 ESC? I have seen that. Can we look at that? Can we look? We can't. It's my live stream. We can look at that if I want to. Oh, isn't that nice? So, no. Where is it? Steve Tricks, where is it? Is there a link? Well, it must be T-Motor FetTech Alpha G4. Okay, Fly High FPV has it. I got it. Good old Fly High FPV never lets me down. The T-Motor FetTech Alpha G4 HD. So what we've got here is a FetTech Alpha compatible flight controller being manufactured by T-Motor. My thought when I saw this, by the way, was, doesn't Acon make T-Motor's hardware? I think that they do. I'm pretty sure that they do. But whoever, that's a good thing. Like, if in fact this is made by Acon, which is what I believe, then that would be great, because Acon makes great hardware. Acon flight controllers are great flight controllers. T-Motor flight controllers are great flight controllers because they're made by Acon. So the idea here is that finally any sort of supply issues maybe will be alleviated, and people will be able to have more choices in FetTech flight controllers. This is great. I don't see any downside to this. When I first heard that T-Motor was making a KISS / well, I know FetTech and KISS aren't the same thing. Please don't come after my inbox. RIP my inbox if I get those confused. When I heard that T-Motor was making a KISS flight controller, I thought, oh, finally, KISS Ultra is going to not be made in tiny, tiny, tiny batches that you have to, sell your firstborn to get. And then it turned out it was FetTech, and I was like, well, that's good too. No offense, FetTech. FetTech has always been a little more available, I think, than Ultra. So when I heard that a supply was opening up, I was most excited to learn that it was Ultra, since they're the most scarce. Of course, all the fans of KISS Ultra will be like, what do you mean? You can get all the KISS Ultra that you want. All you have to do is join the KISS Discord, turn on notifications, have your phone by your side at all time, have notifications turned on, set up a custom notification sound so that when a post comes into the FetTech or the KISS Ultra Discord, then you hear that notification sound. You real quick look at the date and time that they'll be coming into the store. You set an alarm for 5 minutes before that time. Then 5 minutes before, you start reloading the store page until the store posts, and then you order them. I don't know why people think that KISS Ultras are so hard to get. I've got all the KISS Ultras I need. You know that's what you sound like. You know that's what you sound like. Like, you think you're making my point. Steve Tricks, I have reviewed a KISS Ultra. I have searched for KISS Ultra on my channel. I've done some KISS Ultra content. That's going to get clipped. It's going to get put on the KISS Ultra Discord, and then people are going to get... Listen, and this is all I'm going to say, and then I'm going to move on to the next question, because there are 12 questions in the queue, WTF. KISS Ultra fans, there are two ways you can take that. You can look at it, and you can go, yeah, he's kind of right. and we can all laugh about it, and then we can all be friends and we can move on. Or you can get your feelings hurt and go, Bardwell hates Kiss. And it's your choice. Okay? Do the first one. I mean it with love. Okay. Moving on. Now we got a question from Justin Casey. I'm having a problem, man. I can't get my Ghost module to read on Betaflight. I have a Tyrannus X-Lite Pro. Okay, Justin Casey, this is the kind of question that is going to be difficult to solve on a live stream because it requires a lot of back and forth. Like, I have to ask you questions. And we can do that over email. I mean this. I encourage you to email me and say, hey, it's Justin Casey from the live stream. I can't. And I'm going to ask you questions like about your wiring and about your configuration, because there's so many things that could go wrong. But one of the most common things, I'm going to give you like 2 or 3 common things that prevent a Ghost module from working. I'm going to assume that you've got the receiver bound. Okay? And that you got like solid, whatever light on the LED, and that is bound. The Ghost module, the Ghost signal wire needs to go to the TX pad on the flight controller, not the RX pad. That's a common mistake. It's a little weird, but some protocols use the TX pad instead of the RX pad. Number 2, you need to go to the CLI in Betaflight sometimes, not always, but sometimes, and type set serial RX _ half duplex equals on, and then save, type save. If you didn't do that, that might be why it's not working. And then number 3, it's possible that you need to do the bind plus setup. When the Ghost receiver can output different protocols. It can output SBus, it can output Ghost. And so when you do bind plus setup, it sets the protocol that the Ghost receiver outputs. Now, it comes from the factory outputting Ghost protocol, which is probably what you expected. But a situation people have gotten into in the past is that previously the receiver was set up to output SBus, and now they keep rebinding it, but they never do bind plus setup to reconfigure it to output the Ghost protocol. So those are some things you can check on. And if you want to go deeper, you can email me and we will go into it. Jan Grudnicki asks, do DJI camera drones interfere with DJI FPV? Yes. I can tell you for sure that all of these devices operating in the 5.8 gigahertz band interfere with each other. I did a video with Rotor Riot a few months ago where I was flying, I think it was a Mavic, and the rest of the guys had DJI FPV, and then one guy, DJI FPV, like the air units, not the potato drone. And then one person had analog, and we were doing some kind of a video where we were all flying at the same time. And the Mavic was absolutely crushing everybody else. And then we took the Mavic and we put it down in 2.4 gigahertz, and then everything was fine, but then the range on the Mavic was terrible. So yes, absolutely they do interfere, and I don't have a specific instruction for how to deal with that other than to find the person using the Mavic and just hit them with rocks until they land and stop that nonsense. That's what I recommend. That's a joke. Please don't demonetize me. Thank you from Stuart. Oh, thank you for a $2 super chat from Stuart. I see. Stuart. Yeah, I got you, Stuart. Stuart wants to know my favorite indoor quad, preferably for a new pilot. I've been watching Letterkenny. I don't know if some of you guys probably out there know Letterkenny. If you're not, it's a really, really funny, sweet show about a small Canadian town. And every time I hear the name Stuart, now I just think, Stuart. If you don't watch Letterkenny, that means nothing to you. Stuart wants to know, what's your favorite indoor quad for a new pilot? I'm going to assume, Stuart, that you're looking for an FPV quad, I think it's got to be the Mobula 6. When flying indoors, especially for a new pilot, the less powerful the quad is, the better. Okay? When flying indoors, you want something small enough that when you crash it into the wall or crash it into the couch, it's not tearing up your upholstery, it's not scratching up your walls, especially if you rent, but even if you're a homeowner, it's not good. a Mobula 6, a 65 millimeter quad like a Mobula 6, it has prop guards. It has very small props. It is low powered. It is relatively easy to fly indoors. It's still fairly hard to fly indoors if you don't know how to fly already. It's better to learn to fly outdoors in a big open field where there's nothing for you to crash into. But if you must fly indoors as a beginner, do it with the smallest, lightest, least powerful thing you can so that it's easier to control. And when you crash, you're not tearing up the upholstery. Stuart! Man, the relationship between Roald and Stuart is so wholesome. Like, Roald loves him. Like, Roald is a gay man, and Stuart is, as far as we know, not. And Roald definitely would get with Stuart, but Stuart doesn't swing that way. And in the meantime, they have like this super wholesome bro love. Because like, I think Roald knows that it's never going to be. It's super wholesome and just so well written. And it's not deep. It's a comedy. But like, super wholesome relationship. I dig it. The whole rest of this live stream will be sound clips from Letterkenny. Figure it out. The first guy to ever call the Skids wholesome. The relation... Tell me that... I mean, I'm only in season 5 or 6. That's actually getting up there. I think there's like 8 or 10 seasons. It may not have been that way in season 1 or 2, but by season 5 or 6, the relationship between Roald and Stuart is so wholesome. It's really sweet. Anyway. Callie FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. I've been running my O3s off of battery voltage. Everything has been fine. Would it be wiser to use a 12-volt BEC, or am I good? Callie, I think that it is always safer to use a BEC, or voltage regulator, as some would call it, because it will help protect the air unit from voltage spikes. Now, we know that the Caddx Vista has an issue where if there's too many voltage spikes, or too big of a voltage spike, or you just get unlucky one day, I don't know what causes it, the diodes on the TX and the RX lines will fry, and then you won't be able to, your OSD won't work anymore, and so forth. The TX and RX lines basically fry. I speculate, I don't have proof for this because I don't have any actual statistics, but I speculate that that is way more likely to happen when you're running on VBAT than when you're running on a regulator, because the regulator will help filter out voltage spikes. Now, we don't know about the O3. The O3 is still new enough. I haven't heard of anybody frying their TX and their RX lines on an O3. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but I haven't heard of it. So it's possible that the O3 is better engineered and can take the voltage spikes and you don't need the voltage regulator. But the voltage regulator will never hurt and might help. The only thing I would say is make sure that the voltage regulator is adequately sized, because if the voltage regulator isn't big enough, and 12 volts 2 amps should be 24 watts, which is, I think that like the absolute most that the O3 might theoretically pull is like 16 or 17 watts. It's less than 20 watts. I'm pretty sure about that. So at 12 volt 2 amp BEC, 24 watts should be good. But bear in mind that some voltage regulators are ambitiously rated. So if you're running off a VBAT, at least you know you're not going to brown out and lose the O3. So make sure that the BEC is well-sized, and I think that it might be a little bit of safety, but it might also just be unnecessary. That's what I'll say about that. A lot of people in the chat arguing about the Meteor Pro. Siati, I put a video up on my Patreon today where Siati and I dive deep about his thoughts about the Meteor Pro, and he doesn't like it. But a whole lot of people seem to like it. It's John B. says I banned their channel for no reason and now they're back. So it's John B. At this point, if I ban... Oh, YouTube banned your channel. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm backing off. I was going to say, if I banned your channel, I had a reason, and I'm just going to ban you again now that you've outed yourself. But I see that YouTube banned your channel, not me, and so I will not do that. Joey W. wants to know, can you contrast the advantages and disadvantages of dynamic idle? Yeah, okay. Dynamic idle. Oh, wrong screen. So dynamic idle, for those who don't know, is, there we go. Dynamic idle is configured in the PID tuning tab, PID profile settings, and it is, oh, right here, dynamic idle is off because D-shot telemetry is off. And what dynamic idle does, no, that's not what I meant to do. Let's try again. Figure it out. Figure it out. Figure it out. Come on, Bardwell. Figure it out. Can't figure out if you're coming or going. Dynamic idle is configured right here. And what it does is it sets... Okay, so here's the problem that dynamic idle solves. If a brushless motor spins too slowly, it will stall. Okay? That's the short version. So there is a minimum RPM below which the brushless motor must not go during flight. And the way that Betaflight and many flight controllers traditionally deal with this is with a throttle target. So you will say, don't let the throttle go below 10% or 7.5% or 5.5%. It's some percent of the throttle value. And you'll just basically guess about what throttle value will keep the motor spinning without stalling. Fine. The problem with that is that actually the throttle percent is not the thing that causes a motor to stall. Okay? What causes a motor to stall is when the RPM is too low. And when the RPM, but the problem is that the flight controller doesn't know the RPM of the motor. So we just set a throttle percent and we cross our fingers, we do a little testing, and then we get on with our lives. Well, with Betaflight, what version of Betaflight did this start? Was it 4.2? Was it 4.1? In recent versions of Betaflight, if we go to the Motors tab, we can turn on bidirectional D-shot. And bidirectional D-shot means that the ESC reports the RPM of the motors back to the flight controller. And there are various reasons why this is useful, but one of them is that now the flight controller can know the actual RPM of the motors at all times. And what that lets us do is turn on dynamic idle. So with dynamic idle, you will set a target RPM below which the motor may not go. And the flight controller basically runs a very simple PID loop that watches the RPM of the motor, and if it's getting down near that value, then it raises the throttle to keep the motor from going to that value. And that's what dynamic idle is. This is good because the RPM of a motor is not static based on the throttle position. So if I set the throttle to 5, think about this. If I set the throttle to 5% and now the motor's spinning at a certain RPM. Now imagine that I take a big fan and I blow the fan down on the motor. Like imagine a really powerful fan, like a wind tunnel kind of situation. Can you see that the motor will speed up as the fan blows on the motor, even though the throttle position hasn't changed, because the moving air will unload the prop and help the prop spin faster. And in fact, we could do the opposite. We could blow the fan from the other side, from the bottom, and it would cause the motor to slow down. Well, we don't have giant fans blowing on our motors in real life, but we do have dynamic movement of the quad. As the quad is moving through the air, the throttle the RPM can come up and come down. And dynamic idle allows the motor to go lower in the throttle range if it wants to without stalling. And that's basically the advantage of dynamic idle. Disadvantage of dynamic idle: in older implementations of dynamic idle, it wasn't as well implemented and could cause the motors to surge and not idle as low. And it used to be a little more difficult to tune dynamic idle because you want the motors to go to low values at idle because it makes the quad fly better. So in modern versions, as long as you take the guidelines from the Betaflight devs and set a good value, I don't think there's a lot of disadvantages, and I think you should try it. The only thing you should do is make sure that you're setting a good value for dynamic idle based on the motor that you've got. Why did it link to this page? That's actually the older version of dynamic idle. Here, how about this? Oh yeah, 1 month ago. So I don't know. Go watch this video from UAV Tech for 1 month ago about dynamic idle if you want to know more, and he'll help you get it set up right. But yeah, I think it's worth trying out. So a little bit of a longer answer, but a little bit of a technical one. Let's continue. We got a question here from Elegant Drifter. Is the O3 air unit good enough on connection to not need an ELRS or Crossfire module? I'm curious mainly about penetration through buildings and walls. Elegant Drifter, with the V2 system, the range of the controller was more than adequate for the range of the video link. Clearly, DJI sort of designs these things. Remember that the controller and the video link are all sort of in a digital wireless network with each other. It's not like you've got the controller over here and the video link over here and they're separate. They're all sort of doing the same thing at the same time. So DJI has tuned that controller to have approximately the same range as the video link. Yes, in extreme situations, one of them will give out first, but in general, if you decide to use the O3 system, you are not giving up very much in terms of range by using the DJI controller. Now, if you start adding high-gain antennas to your goggles, that situation could change. At that point, the goggles might have more range than the controller. I don't know. They might not. It's a little, I don't know about any testing or anything. The main reason I think that people use ExpressLRS or Crossfire with the DJI system is that they want their control link to be separate and distinct from the video link, so that if the video link drops, they still have a full function control link, and or they may have other quads that don't run the O3 system or the DJI system, and they just want to use those receivers. So here's a question from Stuart that we answered already. This question is from Tristan Stokes. Should FPV pilots who fly O3 upgrade from the V2 to the Integra? No. If you already own the V2, the only reason you would buy the Integra is if you fly the Avata and you want the built-in GPS. That's not an upgrade. In many ways, it's a downgrade. No, I definitely would not sell my V2 goggles and buy the Integra instead. I don't think there's any reason to do that, unless you fly the Avata. Let's see. I got to be careful because now that... Jesus, there's 15 questions in the queue. This was a terrible idea. I got to be careful because now that Blunty is handling the questions, I can't see. I've got... On this page, I've got the chat and the Discord. And on this page, I've got the chat. And then here's the queue. Here's the queue of questions that he's... Oh, but I see. I see that there's just a shitload of stickers going back and forth. Okay, I feel better about that. Okay, that's good. I got to be careful that I don't just neglect the chat entirely because I'm only thinking about what Blunty is queuing up for me. So... continuing on. Jake Harrison asks, will you ever cover or check out Quicksilver firmware? I've heard it can improve flights on whoops. Jake, I have reviewed one Quicksilver quad in the past. I don't know if I'm... Like, what... Tell me this. My impression of Quicksilver is that, like, you flash it, and then for the most part, you just leave it alone. Like that, it's not like Betaflight where you're going to hook up a configurator and configure it. Like it's pretty much the manufacturer flashes it to the board and that's the end of it. So maybe I'm wrong about that, but is that accurate? Al Mac FPV says in the Discord that they run Quicksilver on the Mobula 7 and they love it. Can you do that? We're going to have to wait for the stream. Abraham says, yes, you reviewed that shitty newbie drone Hummingbird, which was the stolen version of NFE Silverware. Oh, that's Silverware. Was that Quicksilver or was that Silverware? Quicksilver is not the same as silverware, is it? Let's see. Jake Harrison says Fractal Engineering is putting it on their bind and flies. Quicksilver is the brushless fork of silverware. Okay, thank you, Aber. Chicken FPV wants to know the latency on the live. That's about what the latency is, Chicken. I think it's about 30 seconds. Chicken FPV is now absolutely convinced that this is a real live and not a recording. Same NFE code in the tune. I see. Okay. Gotcha. So I don't know if I am going to be going out of my way to, Quicksilver does have a GUI. Well, that's interesting, but I see. I don't know if there was what would get me. So first of all, I don't fly a ton of whoops, right? I don't fly whoops every day. So and I usually focus on, you don't see me branching out a lot into EMU flight. I try that stuff, but I generally am happy flying more mainstream stuff that appeals to my audience. What would get me into something like that would be if I was convinced that it was so radically better that there was value in encouraging my audience to try it. So if Aaron Ciotti rolled up one day and said, "Oh my God, Quicksilver, it's the bomb. It's all I ever want to fly again," I would be like, okay, well, this is something that people might need to know about. I just picked Ciotti because he's a guy I talk to about whoops a lot. So if you guys think that Quicksilver is a game changer for whoops, then that's interesting to know, and you should email me and tell me your thoughts. And then but I probably am not going to just suddenly decide that I'm going to make content about it. Beruta FPV asks, how old is too old for batteries? Might have been sitting about 3 years at storage voltage. Beruta, if they've been at storage voltage, they're probably fine. I would charge them up, check the internal resistance, fly them. The first time you charge them, keep an eye on them in case one of them has a bad cell. But look at the voltage. If after 3 years you look at the voltage and they're all at 3.8 volts, just like they were, chances are they're fine. Charge them at a 1C rate. Keep an eye on them while they're charging, especially that first time. Check the internal resistance. Make sure none of the cells have a really wacky internal resistance. And then once they're fully charged, go fly them and see. They're probably fine. Lauren Walters says, Ciotti loves to tune. Quicksilver is about not having to tune as much. The thing is, as somebody who doesn't push whoops hard every day, I'm not convinced that I would notice, right? I would have to spend a weekend racing a tiny whoop on Betaflight before I then switch to Quicksilver and go, oh, I see. Yes, this is good. Maybe that would be an interesting video to do. I don't know. Matt Sanders, thank you for a $2 super chat. Matt says, thanks for the help over email with my video transmitter. Not of this world wants to, oops, not that one. Not of this world wants, not that one. Not of this world wants to know. Oh, is Ken Heron here? Ken, is Ken in the chat? I see Kim Fused referencing Ken Heron. Is he here? I don't see him. Ken, if you're here, hello. Where's Ken? Why is Ken not blue? Hang on. No, not that. Oh, there he is. There's a super chat. Yeah, okay, great. Is Ken a moderator? Oh, he is a moderator. How do you check the internal resistance on a battery? Usually your charger can display the internal resistance while it's charging. I see. He has a super chat. We'll get to that super chat. Unfortunately, Ken, Blunty is queuing up my my messages today, so I have to take them. No, I don't have to take them in order. Stuart, thank you for a $5 super chat. Stuart says, I got the Cetus X 2 weeks ago at my first quad, and it's great. It's just too much for indoors. I'll get the Mobula 6 now. I mean, the Mob 6 might also be too much for you indoors, but good luck with you. Good luck to you. Ken Heron, skipping to the front of the queue. Here's some money to help keep your props on at Mall Bandos. Thank you, Ken, for a $10 super chat. That was a hoot. I have Ken's video from the abandoned mall dropped just before I started the stream, so I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I did go post a link to it over on my community page. Everybody should definitely check it out after the stream. Don't leave the stream. It's bad for my analytics. Thank you, Scott Besson, for your message. I just bought a Baby 8 Pro, and it has a plug for the video transmitter. Yay! Recommended is the FreeSky RXSR, but the XSR knower is $10 cheaper. What is the difference? The XSR doesn't have telemetry. That's the difference. The RXSR has telemetry. There are a few other differences, but that's the main one. ACCST is the name for the protocol that FreeSky uses to talk between the radio and the receiver. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Oh, anyway. Scott Besson. Now here I think we're getting into these stickers. And unfortunately, Scott Besson. Yeah, we got you, Scott. Now we get into these stickers, and I don't even know because the pop-up doesn't show the stickers. But we got a $1.49 from Bubby, a $5 from Bubby. Steve Tricks, thanks for $1. Bubby, thanks for $2 more. Kim Fuse, thanks for $5. Bubby, thanks for a penny. Bubby, thanks for $1. Bubby, thanks for $1. We got a ton of those. Thank you so much, Bubby. I don't know if you guys saw. Oh, no. I don't know if you guys saw the latest video from Rotor Riot is freaking bonkers. By the way, I'm honored to be on the title card. Thank you. One of the last time I was out there a few months ago, we did a video where Bubby built an 8S drone. Oh, that was fancy. Oh, editor. Look at the editor with this wipe. Oh, that's Bubby built an 8S freestyle drone, and we tried it out, and it was. Well, I encourage you to watch the whole video after the live stream. It was surprising. These were 1500 kV motors on 8S, which equates to a 3000 kV 4S motor, which is just completely inconceivable. And it flew surprisingly good. It was nuts. You had no throttle resolution. You had like half the throttle resolution of a typical 4S build or less. But it was nuts to fly. And I'm not saying that everybody should switch to 8S because we talk in the video about some of the downsides of this, which I'm not going to get into because you can just go watch the video. But I will say this. If you are looking for something different, and you have, I don't know, like $500 sitting in your pocket to build a new quad, an 8S build with like 1500, these were prototype motors. I don't even know if you can get them. It is like, whoa, this is very interesting to fly. And then presumably the ESC will just explode. Right. It was sick. So Bubby, thank you for that. It was a real experience. What's the all-up weight on an 8S drone? This one was 820 grams, but it did have a lot of BS 3D printing on it, Bubby. So it did not fly like an 820 gram quad. That's part of what was so interesting is it was really punchy and responsive for a freaking 800 gram quad. It was nuts. It was nuts. So check it out. Continuing. Thanks for the super chats, Bubby. Larry Cummings wants to know, how much current does a Vista draw at 9 volts? I'm having an issue with it dropping out on 1.5 amp Beck on 6S. So, Larry, let's do a little math here. The Vista draws something like 10, maybe 12 watts, if my memory's correct. Let's just double check that, because I don't want to be wrong. That is a voltage, not a wattage. That is not a power. That's a voltage. Voltage is not power. Voltage is electrical potential. STFU, it's about 9 watts. Okay. So let's say 10 watts to be conservative. So if we need 10 watts at 9 volts, that's going to be 0.9 amps. Or is that 9 volts at 10 watts? 10 watts, yeah. So you got a 1.5 amp Beck. 1.5 times 9 volts is 13.5 watts. So you just barely have enough wattage, but I feel like probably your voltage regulator is not actually rated for 1.5 watts or 1.5 amps. It's just being a conservative. I always overrate voltage regulators because I don't want to end up in this situation. For a Vista, if you knew that you had an honest 1.5 amps, you'd be good to go. But since it's dropping out, I presume that you don't have an honest 1.5 amps. So I would buy like a 2 amp voltage regulator, and you'd probably be fine. Becks do fail, as Baldman points out. Pete Plays asks, my 5-inch build on idle with motors disarmed seems to decrease and increase RPM as it sits on the ground. I assume this was because the flight controller wasn't well calibrated, so I switched to acro mode. It still does it. Doesn't seem to affect flight. Is this normal? Should I be concerned? Yes, it's normal. In some cases, obviously not all quads do it. Okay. But it's not inherently a problem as long as your quad flies okay. Sometimes what it means is that the PIDs are a little too high. So you might consider... Wait. Idle with the motors disarmed? No. You mean idle with the motors armed. That must be what you mean. So you might consider reducing the master multiplier in Betaflight PID tuning tab, or you could just live with it. As long as your motors are, if your motors are super hot and when you idle, your motors are kind of going, then maybe you've got an issue that you need to solve. But as long as your motors aren't super hot and it flies okay, I think I would just ignore it. Bubby, that's a great comment. Bubby says, I suck at 3D printing, so I feel wrong giving advice, but word on the street is saying smart's the best. That's a really mature comment. I don't want to call you out, but that's a humble comment, and I respect it. Jan Grudnicki asks, can you activate the DJI Goggles 2 and the O3 Air unit without a computer? Chat, help me out with this. I'm 99% sure you can activate them using the DJI Fly app. Is that correct? Can you activate the Goggles 2 and the O3 Air unit using the DJI Fly app? Can you update firmware using the DJI Fly app? I do it with a computer, so I don't know. But I think you can. We're going to wait a second for the chat to catch up and see what they say. They haven't caught up yet. It's a terrible, terrible stream content. Then he just sat there and sang to himself for 30 seconds. CKFPV says I had to use my PC. The app didn't work for me. Okay. Everyone else also doesn't use the app, so we're not sure. There we go. I did my goggles through the phone, says Bad for Life, and the O3 through PC. Fair enough. I think you're probably, you might end up needing a PC. All right. That's what we're going to go with. 413 FPV asks, do the DJI V2 goggles work with what VTXs? The V2 goggles work with the Vista generation of video transmitters. So the Caddx Vista, the Runcam Link, and the older DJI Air unit. Basically, all the FPV video transmitters that are not the O3. And the V2 goggles also work with the O3. So they work with all the DJI FPV video transmitters. Is that the question? They work with all of them. It makes me wonder if there's another video transmitter you're thinking of that I've overlooked. Pyro159 wants to know, still working on the 3D printed hexacopter project. Wiring my ESCs, do I use both ground and PWM or just PWM? I would use both. You probably don't need the second ground wire because you're probably just going to solder it to the power ground. So it probably doesn't matter. Here's what I'd say. If your flight controller has a separate ground pad for the signal ground, solder that. Otherwise, leave the ground wire, leave the signal ground off. Because my guess is that they're just going to be parallel grounds, and it's not going to matter. Frequent Flyer RC, thank you for a $5 super chat. Appreciate your donation. Which are better, Nachi motors or smooth motors, given all else is the same? That's an impossible question to answer. Generally, what makes a motor Nachi is really powerful magnets. And I feel bad because I'm getting into the realm of generalization where you're going to be able to sort of nitpick what I say and go, well, not always. And I want to acknowledge that we're sort of in that realm. So let's all just, take it easy. But I'll try to make meaningful generalizations. Generally, Nachi motors have really powerful magnets. There are things you can do with the design of the motor to have powerful magnets be less Nachi. But generally, when you have a super Nachi motor, it has very strong magnets. And that tends to make a motor that makes more power. But there's a lot of other variables. For freestyle, a lot of people feel like Nachi motors are harder to tune and want smoother motors. I think that, so if you race, the thing is, some top racing motors are also not super Nachi. So like, it's hard to generalize. But for freestyle, I would generally shy away from a super Nachi motor. I don't have scientific data to prove that a super Nachi motor can't be smooth, but my instinct would be to shy away from a Nachi motor. So, Kerry Miller wants to know, when can we buy those T-Motor F60 1500 kV motors for our 8S builds? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, Bubby. Bubby, you and me. We're gonna be the vanguards of the 8S revolution. The old generation and the new generation. Let's do it. Let's make that motor a freaking... Bubby, let's make everybody waste their money building 8S quads because we say it's amazing. And then they find out that like it's super expensive and your ESC blows up and your motors burn up. And like 6 months from now, everybody's like, oh no, 8S, that was a huge mistake. But for one glorious month, we will be kings. And by kings, I mean influencers. It doesn't sound as good when you say it that way, does it? I'll tell you what. I honestly, And I feel, go watch the video and get the whole story with all the pros and cons. That quad flew freaking amazing. It's been a while since I flew a quad and went, whoa, ho, whoa. It was freaking amazing. And I don't know if I'd want to live with it on a day-to-day basis because, like I said, I'm pretty sure the ESC is going to explode. But, like, for one glorious moment, it was really something. Let's get T-Motor to make that motor and, like, start the 8S revolution. And then I guarantee you, 6 months from now, everyone will realize it was a huge mistake and go back to 6S. But first, it'll be interesting. Peter Bermudez. Thank you for a $5 super chat, Peter. Why not just do 6S with 1950 kV motors? Shut up, Ciotti! That's not how we do it! We don't make sense. We don't make sense like that. We say, this is the new hotness. You must spend your money on this or you're a loser and you're missing out. That's how we do it. We don't ask reasonable questions like, why not just get a 2100 kV 6S motor? Isn't it the same RPM at the prop? Shh. No. Shh. Shh. You think about what you've done. Apparently you can put a moderator in timeout, so that's interesting. Oh no, I deleted his messages. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't, it was just, I didn't mean to delete your messages, Ciati. I'm really sorry. Oh, well. It was worth it. Okay, Peter Bermudez, we got you. Quad City Bay Area, could flying an analog be a workaround for remote ID, or does the same apply? Remote ID applies no matter what video link you're using. The only sort of workaround would be that you're under 250 grams and you're flying recreationally. So if you're under 250 grams and you're flying recreationally, you don't have to worry about remote ID and you don't have to worry about drone registration. Yay. If you are over 250 grams and or you are flying Part 107 commercial, then yeah, there is no workaround for remote ID except to fly out of FRIA. Yep. Oh, that's good. Blue Sky FPV says 3,600 kV on 6S and a fire extinguisher included. Bubby, tell this to Drew in your next meeting. When Rotorite starts selling 8S quads, we should sell it with a little miniature fire extinguisher. We probably can't ship real fire extinguishers through the mail. That's probably a problem. So it would probably have to be like a fake fire extinguisher. We include like a little plastic fire extinguisher as a joke. That's funny as shit. Johnny 5. Good to see you, Johnny 5. Free Sky rep said he saw I didn't like their products and would be in town and asked if I would meet him on the outskirts of town to see what they are about. Should I go? All right, well, guys, you know how, like, sometimes when somebody's going to go, like, on a sort of a sketchy date, or maybe they're not 100% sure they're going to be safe, and they're like, okay, or they're going to go caving or hiking, and they're like, hey, I'm going to go, here's where I'm going, and here's who I'm going to be with. Johnny 5 is doing that for us right now. If Johnny 5 disappears, we know that this Free Sky rep... Johnny 5, I'm going to assume... your question is probably a joke, but if your question is serious, if a Free Sky rep called me up and said, hey, can I take you out to lunch and try and sell you on our products? Given what I've seen from Free Sky, I'm not going to name any names, given what I've seen from Free Sky reps in the past, like on the internet, I would not be convinced that anything would be said in that call that would change my opinion. Because every time they've talked about and argued with people like you and me online, and I say they, it's one guy. So to be fair, maybe it's just him. But like, I would need to have a conversation with them where I was convinced that something meaningful or positive was going to come out of the situation. And I haven't seen that yet. So I would not go to the meeting, not because I was scared for my safety, just because it would be a waste of time. Because they would just be like, look, Free Sky is awesome. Why don't you like us? And I'd be like, here are the reasons I don't like you. They're the same reasons I've been listing for the last 4 years. And they'd be like, nuh-uh, we didn't do that. Why are you so mean to us? We don't deserve this. Or something along those lines. And then I'd be like, okay, we're done here. So I'll just skip right to, we're done here. Okay. If I had a conversation with the rep and it seemed like we weren't going to have those issues, then I would ask the question, what am I going to get out of this? What are you going to show me that I don't already know? And given Free Sky's history in the past, let's say Free Sky had some new product that I was going to love. I don't know what that would be, but let's just say that they have some new product that I am going to love. And they take me and they're going to show it to me. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys have hit the jackpot. You've given me everything I've ever wanted. This is amazing. I wouldn't be convinced that they wouldn't F it up in 6 months because they have consistently made decisions that I look at and go, that's not the direction I want to go, and I'm not happy about that. And so if they had a good product today, I wouldn't be convinced that it would continue to be a good product, and I'd feel hesitant. So here's a question from Shruti Prabhuni. I'm sorry. From Shruti. Hey, Joshua Bardwell, I have 4S batteries and 6S batteries. I want to use them on 2450 kV motors. I know you can limit the motor kV. Is there a way to assign a switch to change between kVs? No, but there is a way to do what you want. It's not a switch. So, Shruti, here's what you want. You want to go in Betaflight in the PID tuning tab. You're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And you can barely see this. Let me zoom it in. Cell count for auto profile switching. So what you're going to do is up here at the top, this is PID profile 1, okay? And this is your PIDs. You've got all your PIDs set up. I don't know how you set them up. But let's imagine that this is your PID profile, and we're going to save that, okay? Okay, so PID profile 1 is the one you always fly on, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to hit Copy Profile, and you're going to copy the values from the current profile to profile 2. By hitting the copy button. So now profile 1 and profile 2 are identical. You with me so far? Then we're going to go down, and in the cell count, we're going to choose 4S for profile 1 and save. You can see me hitting the save button here. And then we're going to go back up to the top. We're going to switch to profile 2. We're going to go down. And we're going to choose 6S for, 6S for profile 2, and we're going to save. And now on profile 2, the 6S profile, we're going to go up to motor output limit, and we're going to set that to 66%, and we're going to save. And that will cause the quad to automatically compensate for the increased voltage and your 2450 kV motors. That's exactly how to do it. We have come to the middle of the live stream, and it is time to take a minute to pay the bills. And this is where, like, Linus Tech Tips would show you lttstore.com or try to get you to buy a water bottle or tell you about D-Brand, or anybody else might do a sponsor spot. But I'm not going to do any of those things. Well, it's kind of like Linus showing you lttstore.com. I don't have LTT Store, but I do have a website, and I want to tell you about it. I want to encourage you to check out fpvknowitall.com. fpvknowitall.com is my website, and the main thing that's there is the ultimate FPV shopping list, where you can get information about FPV gear. If you're wondering about what products I recommend, if you're confused about, like, all these digital systems, how do I pick one? There's a lot of information here. Or if you've been out of the hobby for a little while and you need to come up to speed, I got product recommendations in a whole bunch of categories. All of these links are affiliate links. So even if you're like, yeah, no, Bardwell, I know what I want to buy. I don't need you. It would still mean a lot if you would hit the support me page and use these affiliate links. These are stores that I have affiliate relationships with. And when you click that link and then make any purchase just go there first. You can bookmark the links if you really want to. Then I get a little commission, and it sure means a lot. But mostly I like to help people make better decisions about what to buy. And that's what this website is all about. I would also like to remind you that if you love my live streams, Joshua Bardwell live stream clips is where we clip stuff out of the live streams. And there's going to be a lot more clips now that Blunty is running the comments, because I am more efficient than ever at answering questions. If you're not a subscriber over there, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Head on over to Joshua Bardwell live stream clips and get subscribed so you can see all that awesome live stream content that you might have missed out on. Lastly, searchfpv.com. Searchfpv.com is a multi-store FPV search engine. Searchfpv.com lets you choose which stores you want to search from. You can choose by region: Europe, Asia, North America, USA. This is the USA stream. We're only searching in the USA. You can choose a product. We'll put quotes around this to try and help the search be a little more focused. And we can look for... Well, I can't say those search results were terribly focused, but it is what it is. We can look for products that we want to buy and find them in stock. Well, I know GetFPV has the Integra. How about if we just search for Integra? Anyway, this could be... Unfortunately, we are limited by the search results of the store, and the stores sometimes kick back a whole bunch of search results that aren't necessarily related. What can you do? Anyway, searchfpv.com. Check it out. Okay, back to the stream. Somebody apparently said that my flying was underrated on that Rotor Riot video. Well, it can't be overrated, can it be? Is that right, Paul? It's hardly overrated. Kids these days don't know who Paul Schaefer is. We got a question from Slickback. Slickback says, this could be a dumb question. Ooh, never afraid of dumb questions. How can a long-range quads fly far if batteries are only supposed to last 5 to 7 minutes? They have bigger batteries. I mean, you say batteries are only supposed to last 5 to 7 minutes, but that's like you look at a certain car and you go, how can over-the-road semi-trucks drive for, 900 miles if a gas tank only lasts for 250 miles? Well, they have bigger gas tanks, right? Long-range quads, number one, are designed for efficiency. So they'll have more efficient motors and props. They'll generally be lighter weight, although that varies depending on the size of the quad. And then they'll have a lot of freaking batteries. They'll have giant honking batteries that can let them fly long enough. That's the answer. For 5-inch freestyle quads, batteries only last, 3 to 5 minutes, but that's, it's a different vehicle. It's got different expectations. Biruk Ems asks, I recently updated my Tiny Ape Freestyle AIO to 4.4, and after update, the gyro is not working. Is there any way to fix this? So, I can't tell you for sure how to fix it. However, I can tell you I don't know why this, oops, there we go. I don't know why this search result doesn't bring me to the page. I'm sorry. The fuck? Okay. Betaflight devs! Can you reverse sort this so the latest release is at the top? Thank you. No, wait, what? No. Wait, are you telling me? Oh, they're separate pages? So when I click release, it takes me to the 3.0 release notes. That's stupid and backwards, and don't do that. Don't do that. The 4. It should obviously bring you to the latest version. I honestly don't know what people would do without me to point these things out. People have real work to do. And I find one trivial little thing on a website to bitch about and then act like I'm like the savior of the world. And then they, because I have a live stream and an audience, then they have to be like, fuck, we have to drop everything and do whatever Bardwell said, which is really unfair. But this is the tiny trivial thing I'm bitching about right now. So, well, if you were a better person, you just wouldn't do that. I know, but I'm just on a live stream. I'm just talking. I just keep going, and I say whatever comes into my head. And it makes me feel good to have something where I feel like self-righteous and sanctimonious. All those guys are super smart, and they're making a whole flight firmware, and they know all these things that I don't know. So if I can find one mistake on their website, then I'm like, oh, you guys... then suddenly I feel like I'm on their level. Maybe if I brought them down to my level would be a better way to put it. I should show my therapist this section. I think there's something to go. We'll move on. Betaflight 4.4 release notes have suggestions for what to do if you don't have a gyro. It's in the cloud build section. Where the F is it? Cloud build. Yeah, here we go. So it suggests that if you have something missing, then we suggest flashing the core version, and then you can submit a support level of detail and use the custom defines. If you're missing a barometer, if you're missing a flash chip, why are you missing a gyro? It doesn't say anything about a missing gyro. That's weird. I don't know. Are you sure you flashed the right target? Now I'm wondering. It only talks about a missing barometer or a missing flash chip. Blunty, I got you. Where am I looking? Custom defines. Yeah. Oh, we got a link right here. Oh, Bacon Ninja has it. What does Bacon Ninja have to say? Should pin the message. We should pin the message.
New flight controller.
Okay.
And if you do, sometimes something is missing.
All right.
Target name, and you pick that target name from the handy dandy little list, and everything should work. And you press the apply custom default buttons after it's done flashing like a good pilot. You do all the things, but then as soon as you go to the config page, you see the telltale signs that no gyro was found, which is super disappointing because that is literally one of the handful of things a flight controller needs to function, and it will not function without it. But
right.
You didn't actually do anything wrong. In fact, it's not really anybody's fault. What's going on here is kind of a multi-layered approach. And to show you that, I'm going to show you this. This is the Darwin 15 amp AIO. This is not the ELRS version. This is just their standard 15 amp AIO. And the product page for this says that the target for this board is Maytag F411, and that it should either have an MPU 6500 gyro or an ICM 20689 gyro, which this one does. This board right here has the MPU 6500. The confusing part, though, is that it says the target is Maytag. This is a Darwin board. It came in a Darwin box. Why would it say Maytag? Well, that's just the way Betaflight has been able to unify targets. Instead of having a million targets for every manufacturer, they kind of unify targets around manufacturers that have modeled their boards similarly. And the layout of this board, as far as how...
Well, what really happened is that a whole bunch of people used the Maytag target without Maytag's permission, just because I don't know, maybe it was well documented or something. So there's a shit. It's not really the Betaflight devs who did that. It's that manufacturers just basically ripped off Maytag's target. That's my take on it.
How the processor's pins connect to things and what things are on it are supposed to be identical to the Maytag F411. The problem is that this is Darwin, and this is 2023, and you notice that it said that there are 2 different gyros that may be on this board. One of those gyros is on this board. The problem is, if you dig into Darwin's documentation a little bit further and look at their diagram, it says that this board is actually supposed to have an MPU 6000 on it, and the Maytag F411 target has an MPU 6000 in it. The problem is that this board doesn't have an MPU 6000 on board. This particular one has an MPU 6500. And before Betaflight 4.4, what Betaflight was doing was wrapping a bunch of gyro drivers into all of the firmware so that no matter what the vendors did with the gyros, it would essentially just work. Well, that's not the way it works anymore in 4.4 because we have the cloud build flasher where you get to pick a bunch of things and it actually builds your target in real time. So it's based on what the manufacturer told the Betaflight devs should be on the board. That's what they wrap into it when you make the firmware to flash. And for the Maytag F411, that would be the MPU 6000. And since Maytag really controls that target, they are the ones that make the board.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do. Hang on a second. That was a was that a super chat? Was that a super chat, Blenty? I don't know. It was not a super chat. Okay, here's what let's do. Let's just real quick. Can I thank him? Let's just real quick throw Bacon Ninja $10 as a thank you for solving this problem. Boom. Well, I don't know if maybe I don't want this to be on screen. I don't know if it's going to like show my credit card number or some nonsense. And then I'm going to send you over to Bacon Ninja's video, which I'm going to paste in the chat because he's got the fix for how to do it. Okay? Thank you, Bacon Ninja, for that. He's specifically talking about the exact board that you have. So that is obviously your solution. Okay, great. Thank you, Blenty, and thanks for you guys finding that in the chat. Next up. Is there any reason you couldn't use 8S with a motor output limit? Yeah, absolutely, you could do that. I mean, anytime your motor output limit gets below about, say, 65, 75%, I think that you're in a weird territory where you're going to get problems. But like, if you wanted to run 8S, but you didn't have a 1500 kV motor, could you run like a 1700 kV? I mean, 1600 kV is not that far off. You could get some 1600 kV motors and just run a motor output limit. You totally could do that. So like, if you want to run 8S, let's see, 1600 kV, let's take 1500 out of 1700. That is 88%. So what you would do is you would get a 1700 kV motor and you'd put an 88% throttle limit or motor output limit and you'd be okay. Your ESC obviously will have to be able to be rated for 8S as well. That's a good point. Yeah. Pizza Duder. Does under 250 grams and recreational mean I don't need a 107 license? Well, Pizza Duder, if you are doing work in the furtherance of a business interest, then you're supposed to have a 107. And by the way, can I say, and no one's going to see this except the people who already watch my stream, so this is kind of pointless. Maybe we'll clip this for the Livestream Clips channel. No, don't. I'd rather not draw attention to myself, but I'll just say for you guys who are here, can you listen very carefully to the actual words that I use when I talk about the FAA? Because I select those words very carefully. And I say things like, the FAA will expect you to have a Part 107. Do you see the difference between that and you will need to have a Part 107? Think about it. Whenever I talk about remote ID and Part 107, someone pops up in the chat and they're like, you know, it sounds like you're really supporting this. Just because I talk about what the rules say doesn't mean that I am personally in support of the righteousness of those rules. If you think about many other kinds of legal reform that have happened in history, go back 20, 25 years ago and think about, you know, cannabis. You would talk about what the law says and what the penalty would be for being caught with possession. That didn't mean that you felt that the current laws were just or righteous. And you also don't hear me say, oh, F the FAA. because that would be stupid. It would get me a lot of internet points and put a big target on my back. And internet points don't pay the bills, but targets on your back do cost money sometimes, depending on who's shooting at that target. So please, pay attention to the actual words that I use. To go back to the question, if you want to comply with the rules, then if you are flying your drone in furtherance of a business interest, then you are expected by the FAA to have a 107, Part 107. That's regardless of whether you're under 250 grams or not. In furtherance of a business interest means, well, certainly if you accept money, if you are paid for the flight, that's obviously in furtherance of a business interest. If you receive any kind of compensation, that probably counts. You're like, well, I didn't get a check, but they let me stay overnight in the resort. That counts. Well, they gave me 10 pounds of brisket for free. That counts. If you're putting it up on YouTube and you monetize your channel, that counts. And if you do it for free, for no compensation whatsoever, just because your brother owns a car dealership and he asked you if you'd do a fly-through for him that he could use on his webpage, that counts. Those things all require a 107 in order to be legal. All right, well, I hope I've answered your question. Chris, Clownin' Out FPV asks, what is everybody running these days if not FreeSky? Crossfire, Ghost, Express LRS, and maybe Tracer. I think Tracer's not. I would guess that. Ooh, that's tough. Okay, chat. Is Tracer or Ghost the least popular control link? Hang on, I'm going to make a poll. Start a poll. Which is the least popular control link? Tracer, Ghost. And by the way, I'm not even counting the older control links. I mean, of modern control links, which is the least popular? We're going to put this to the chat. The results will mean nothing. It's just a poll. It means nothing, but it'll be fun for us. Thank you, Bubby, for another sticker. Another $1 sticker. Appreciate it. Thank you, Cloudy Media, for $1. Thank you, Garda Rotor. You think an Express LRS internal module could be swapped to replace a 4-in-1 in the Radiomaster Boxer? Radiomaster does sell the internal module separately. Yeah, 100%. Okay, like I know for a fact you can do it on the TX16S. I assume Radiomaster didn't like redesign the module in the Boxer. I assume it's the same module. So like, yeah, I 100% think you could do it. I haven't done it. I can't be like actually guarantee you. But if you couldn't do it, I would be really surprised. Chris, Clownin' Out FPV, thanks for a $2 super chat and a sticker. And Elegant Drifter asks, with the O3 Air unit, do you need Express LRS and Crossfire? Thank you for a $2 super chat, Elegant Drifter. You don't need it. You can use the V2 controller. However, a lot of people prefer to have a separate control link that has even more range and reliability, or they like a programmable controller like a Boxer or TX16S. If you fly anything that doesn't have the O3 in it, then you're going to be thinking hard about what control link you want. So, yeah, you don't need it, but a lot of people would choose it for those reasons. Bubby has a great question. Bubby, I'm gonna call an audible on the queue here. So I want to put Ghost in my radio, like internally. Is there a way I could do that? Bubby, no. I don't think there's a version of EdgeTX that supports an internal Ghost module. So what you could do is you could rewire the module, the external module bay. You could like somehow cram the board into your radio, rewire the module bay so it connects to the module, and you could then theoretically have an internal module, but as far as the radio knows, it would be an external module. Yeah, but no, I don't think the software supports an internal Ghost module, and so I don't think you could do it. It's an interesting question, though. All right, let's check this poll. Ending the poll. The chat thinks that Tracer is less popular than Ghost. Interesting. I think that's a really interesting question. I think that ExpressLRS took a big bite out of Tracer, in my opinion. They scratched the same itch in a lot of ways, but ExpressLRS is lower latency and faster than Tracer. And so ExpressLRS scratches that itch more, although a lot of racers don't like dealing with the hassle and complexity of ExpressLRS. Ghost, I am not sure why Ghost didn't take off more than it did. I think it's not as popular as I would have guessed that it would be. Maybe Immersion RC just can't make enough of it. I think there's some racers. Yeah, Tracer wasn't a response to Ghost, I don't think, Jeff Locke. I think that Tracer was rushed out after Ghost dropped. Ghost at least has long-range modes, whereas Tracer doesn't really have that. It's Blunty says Ghost is a racing link. Bubby says, I say Tracer is less popular because literally every racer flies Ghost. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Have the racers all switched from Crossfire to Ghost? I knew some of them did, but I wasn't sure how widespread it was. That's really interesting. That's news to me. Ghost and ELRS, says Blunty on the polls that I've seen. Racers are running Ghost and ELRS. So hang on, I'm way out of date. Are racers, is nobody running Crossfire anymore? I mean, like, nobody is a strong word. Oh, Eirik Toft says, according to Search FPV, Ghost is searched for 3 times more than Tracer. That's interesting. Because people on Search FPV have buying intent. That's interesting. Okay. Now we have some actual data that suggests that Ghost is more popular than Tracer. So there we go. Of the 4 modern control links, Crossfire, ExpressLRS, Ghost, and Tracer, Tracer is number 4, we think. Now, clearly Ghost then is number 3, right? Who's number 1, Crossfire or ExpressLRS? Has ExpressLRS taken the crown? Phantom does fly Ghost, Kim Fused. I can confirm. Phantom tried ExpressLRS. I don't want to speak for him, but my recollection of what he said was he tried ExpressLRS. He had some issues where he fail-safed, where he wasn't sure why he fail-safed, and he was like, nah, F this, I'm going back to Ghost. Crossfire just has a huge user base, established user base. I think eventually ExpressLRS will overtake Crossfire if it hasn't already. All right. Kojo FPV. Wow, Kojo FPV, thank you for a $20 super chat. That's extremely generous. I put the SpeedyBee F7 V3 stack in a build I had a problem with the ESC. Ordered a new... By the way, you say you ordered a new ESC. Guys, if you buy the SpeedyBee is going to hate me for this. If you buy the SpeedyBee stack and you get a dead flight controller or a dead ESC, where I'm not talking about like you beat the shit out of it and you crashed it and you broke it. Don't abuse this, but if SpeedyBee is relatively responsive with replacement parts, so if you buy it and like you take it out of the box, you hover it in a field and then the ESC dies, don't just go, Bardwell recommended this to me and now it died. Like, you got unlucky. You're the 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 500 or whatever the number is. Reach out to SpeedyBee. Tell them what happened. I know many people, many may be exaggerating it. I know more than 1 or 2 people who have done this and they just are like, yeah, sorry about that. And they send them a new ESC. Okay? So you ordered a new one. You should still do this. You could still probably get a replacement ESC from them. Try to do a runaway. Oof. So if you had a runaway and you're using the Superfly preset, anytime you have weird behavior, a runaway motors, a flyaway, hot motors, and you have installed a preset, go back to the default PIDs. Go back to the default PIDs. Because the preset may just not work for you. That's the first thing you should do. Eirik Toft points out that on searchfpv.com, searches for ExpressLRS beat Crossfire 2-1. Okay. So that's the ranking. It's official. Of control links in terms of popularity, based on my gut instinct and data from searchfpv.com about what people are searching for. ExpressLRS number 1, Crossfire number 2, Ghost number 3, Tracer number 4. It's official. And now, somewhere, someone in the world is going to go, well, Bardwell said Crossfire's number 2. And miss the fact that that was based on my gut instinct and some very tenuous data. That's the world we live in. Free Sky, shut up, Blunty. I'm sorry. I shouldn't talk to Blunty that way. Blunty was like, Free Sky? Don't talk about Free Sky to me. I'll talk to you randos in chat that way. I'll be like, shut up. Ciotti, get out of here. Shut up. Blunty, I need to respect. Blunty could at any moment make a message appear on screen during my live stream without my intervention. So I have to be nice. I have to be nice to people don't like it when I'm mean to Blunty. They think he's like made of spun sugar. Okay, continuing. Sunshine! Good to see you again, Sunshine. I'm using the DJI Goggles V2 with the Air Unit and Vista Ghost Link for most builds, but I still have a few analog builds that use Fat Shark HDOs. Thinking about moving away from DJI and figured I'd buy Walksnail for my HDOs to replace the analog feed. Okay, I'm with you. If I like the Walksnail system on my HDO and ditch DJI, would my HDOs work for my daily driver? Or would most people upgrade to a better goggle? So you're going to have a little bit of additional latency using the HDMI input on the HDOs compared to the Dominator goggles. If you truly plan to switch to Walksnail as your daily driver, then I think it's worth it to save up the money if you can and get the Dominator goggles so you get the lowest possible latency. However, that's a lot of money. And there probably are better things you could spend your $500 or $600 on, but money not really being a limiting factor, I would instead of spending, well, you're going to spend $200 on the VRX because you're not sure you're going to like Walksnail. Then you're going to try Walksnail and you're going to see if you like it. And if you decide you like it, I would think about whether the VRX is working for you. I mean, if it works for you and you think it's great, then stick with it. But I definitely, personally, I would be looking to a future where I had the Dominator goggles because I would want to know that I was getting the lowest. The latency on the Walksnail and the DJI system is not the best to begin with. So giving up on a little bit of additional latency through that HDMI input, I would feel like I would want to solve that problem. Focus FPV, thank you for a $10 super chat, Focus. I had a video issue with the Mob 6 analog on Betaflight 4.4 and asked you. It didn't work, but when back on the Happy Model Hex, it worked. Why would Betaflight 4.4 not work with your video transmitter? That's weird. I'm glad. You say you learned something. Apparently, you learned. Don't listen to me and download the hex file from the manufacturer. Okay. Next up, we got a question from Drones in FPV. When you set up a new ELRS on a 5-inch, you need to use a Betaflight preset. Do you use that same preset for a 3-inch? No. So let's go. The preset you're talking about is... The preset you're talking about is here in the Betaflight presets tab. And what you're thinking about is the RC Link presets. I apologize that this is really small and people on mobile may not be able to read it. It's the RC Link presets. And the only thing that matters for the RC Link presets is the packet rate. Doesn't matter if it's a 3-inch or a 5-inch. This preset's going to be the same based on whichever Express LRS packet rate you intend to use. Saggy ball. Is Walksnail good nowadays, or is DJI significantly better? If I have to answer that question as asked, I would say DJI is better. Obviously, the real question is more nuanced. A lot of people are nervous about DJI as a company. Things like privacy and political leanings. Walksnail also is a Chinese company, but hey, I'm not here to tell you, how to live your life. Certainly, DJI has a history of doing things that make some people question whether their information is as secure as they would like it to be. And Walksnail doesn't have a history of doing that we know of. Walksnail has some features that DJI has missing or is slower to implement, like custom fonts in the OSD. Walksnail is just a little more quick moving and in tune with what the FPV community wants. And DJI there may be like one guy in DJI who's super in tune, but it's a big company and that guy doesn't actually have the ability to get things done quickly because big companies tend not to get things done quickly most of the time. And Walksnail has like a 1S video transmitter that DJI, you can put on a whoop, and DJI doesn't have that. There's a few things going on. But in terms of pure hardware quality and link quality, who makes the best goggles with the best video link, the best resolution, range, penetration? I feel like DJI edges out Walksnail on the goggles, but only by that much. And then DJI with the O3 and the V2, frankly, in my opinion, edges out Walksnail in the video link by some margin. So Walksnail, I would say this. Walksnail is good. Walksnail is way better than they were a year ago-ish when they first launched, but DJI is still better. Unless you care about one of the 5 or 6 things that Walksnail does that DJI doesn't do, right? Walksnail is totally a contender, though. Dan Navarro, thank you for a $5 super chat. Does it matter what orientation the Tango 2 antenna is in, vertical versus horizontal? So Dan, the best situation will be when the orientation of the Tango 2 antenna matches the orientation of the antenna on your aircraft. And I say aircraft there and not quadcopter because the place this mostly matters is with fixed wing. With fixed wing aircraft, quite often the crossfire antenna will be vertical, like coming out the wing, right? It'll basically stick through the wing and it'll be vertical. And in that case, if you turn your Tango antenna vertical, you'll get better range off of it. Now, with a quadcopter, that doesn't matter as much because, number one, quadcopters usually have the antenna mounted horizontal. Fine, so you put it horizontal. But the other thing is, on a quadcopter, it's constantly tilting and twisting and spinning. And so on a quadcopter, the orientation of the antenna generally changes a lot. And there's not like you could just match the orientation and call it a day. Antonio Hall, thank you for a $5 super chat. How long do you suggest practicing in simulators before getting a drone? I plan on getting the DJI Avata. If you get the DJI Avata and fly it in normal mode, I think some people are going to object to me saying this. I don't think you need to practice very much at all. Just don't be a bonehead when you fly it, okay? Because here's the thing. With the DJI Avata, you're going to power it up. You're going to push the sticks inward, and it's going to arm, and it's going to take off, and then it's just going to sit there. Right? Now, if you power it up, and there's like warnings in the goggles, warning, warning, no GPS lock, compass interference, don't take off. Because you can get in a situation with a DJI drone where it gets confused and then it's not flying itself anymore. And the fix is that you put it into manual mode and you fly it home. But there's a fair amount of experienced DJI pilots who still can't fly in manual mode. So like you on day one not being able to fly in manual mode is not that big of a deal. So then you're going to take the Avata off and it's going to hover. And then you're like gonna start to slowly fly it around. And it's fairly easy to fly. And will mostly keep you out of trouble as long as you take it easy and don't be a bonehead. So take it to a big open area and slowly fly it around and get a feel for it, and you'd probably be okay. Try not to crash it, because the Avata, it's not like super fragile, but if you crash the hell out of it, it will break. Is there like a simulator for the Avata? Does DJI have one? I know they had one for the potato drone. Does DJI like have a... Yeah, they do. Okay, I thought so. Okay, so there is the DJI Virtual Flight. It's an app. It's an app for your cell phone that you can use with the DJI controller to learn to fly. Like totally down. It's free. Download it. Try it out. Get your feet wet. You know, why not? But like, how many hours? Whenever you feel like it. Because the Avata is mostly going to fly itself as long as it's in normal mode. So I think you can pretty much go straight to normal mode as long as you have a little bit of judgment. If you don't have a little bit of judgment, then maybe spend some time in the simulator. Anthony Greco, thank you for a $5 super chat. Betaflight Ghost presets say hardware ADC filter should be disabled in the radio. Can I leave this off while running express alerts? Yeah, 100% you should. You 100% should disable the hardware ADC filter on any radio with quality gimbals. So most modern radios, you 100% should disable the hardware ADC filter. I just leave it off all the time. Although EdgeTX has added the ability to have the hardware ADC filter be a model-specific setting. So if you have some airplanes with servos where you want the ADC filter, which servos is mostly where you want it, you can actually have it turned on for those models and off for the others. Carbon Cage FPV asks, is it common for the OSD resistors to blow on the Vistas? You mean I think you mean the diodes, and it's not uncommon, especially if you power it from VBAT and not a regulator. If those diodes do blow, there are places that will fix that for you. One that comes to mind is, now this one's in Germany, so the shipping's going to be a bitch if you're not in Europe. But VistaRepair.de fixes them and has repairs for the diodes, for the connectors, etc. Is there anybody in the USA who does this? I know Cyclone FPV used to do it, but I think they closed. Cyclone FPV is no longer in business, I think. Well, let's just double check that. The last time this conversation came up, it seemed like they were, if they weren't out of business, they were closing down. Can I like add to cart? Man, what web page is this? Is this like, is this Shopify? What a front end. Powered by Shopify. What Shopify theme is this? Like, you know, 1997? Anyway, that's not the point. It seems like they're still... I don't know why somebody said they were... It doesn't seem like they're closed. Caddx Vista Repair. Where's the form? I don't see where I can actually... I don't know about that. Well, anyway. Cyclone's channel is still up, but every time I go there, he's doing gaming videos. Cyclone says they're still up. Okay. I think Cyclone FPV does Vista repairs. Maybe you'd better just contact them. I don't know if anybody else does it in the USA. What if we go to FPV Exchange? Does FPV Exchange have anybody who does it? No, I'm not seeing any hits there. Well, that's a shame. It seems like somebody out there is going to be doing it, but currently I only know of vistarepair.de, and they will repair those. Bubby FPV thinks Derek Slaytech on Facebook does it. Fair enough. Okay. Travis Eastman, thank you for a $5 super chat. Let's just see if we missed your question. Let's see. Travis Eastman. No, I don't see a question from you, Travis. Just a $5 super chat. Travis, if you meant to ask a question, there we go, I got it. Travis Eastman asks... Oh no, my browser's effed. Oh, we got it. Thank God. Travis asks, I bought a Nazgul Evoke F5X V2 for my first freestyle quad. What settings do you recommend to keep it out of the garbage? Frankly, Travis, this is not the answer that you were hoping for, but iFlight's default settings are very good. Their PID tunes are very good. Their quads fly great out of the box. One of the things iFlight does that I do change on all my quads... Oh, this is a good answer. One of the things I change, I don't necessarily know if you should change it, but I go to the modes tab and they ship angle mode enabled permanently. So do you see how this yellow area covers the entire range of the channel? That means that angle mode is always going to be active no matter what. And they do that because noobs don't know how to fly in acro mode and they don't want them to crash the quad, so they give it to them in angle mode. Once you get to the point where you have practiced acro mode in the simulator, you can rearrange this so that you can switch angle mode on and off with a switch. And then you could try acro mode. But I wouldn't do that like on day one. So that's the one thing I would change about an iFlight bind and fly, but only if you have experience flying in acro mode. Oh, thank you, Joey W. Joey W. DroneNerds.com does Vista repairs. Joey, appreciate you finding that for us. They're an official DJI authorized repair center. Love it. Drone repair. Where is it? Where actually is it? I don't know. Well, presumably they can fix it. I just have to reach out to them with a repair ticket. All right, great. DroneNerds.com. Thank you for finding that, Joey. Carrie Miller wants to know if I milk my goats. All of my goats are boy goats. So, no, I don't milk them. They are not milk goats. They're not hair goats either. They're just pet goats. I don't know what people raise these goats for, to be honest with you. Whether they're actual sort of agricultural intent. It's not, I don't know if the females produce a lot of milk or not. I don't know if they're a milk breed. I don't know if they're a meat breed, but for us, they're just pets. Do not milk the boy goats. That's illegal. They're good at clearing brush. We bought the goats for clearing brush. That is why we bought them. You guys, if you don't know about goats, you'll probably be interested to learn that goats love to eat poison ivy. Goats are not susceptible to the oil in poison ivy that causes you to break out, and they think it tastes great. So if you put goats in an area with poison ivy, they often will eat it preferentially and will clear it out for you, which is fantastic. We have poison ivy all through our woods, and we had the idea that we would buy these goats, and they would go into the woods and they'd clear out the poison ivy for us. Fantastic. In fact, we had 2 goats one year, and these goats did that, and they were great. And as we were going into winter, we thought, well, there's nothing for the goats to eat now that the poison ivy is gone. And we thought, well, maybe we don't want to just keep these goats all winter in a pen. And so we actually sold them. So we had the goats for a summer. They cleared out the poison ivy. It was great. That was like several years ago. So, goats are amazing. Goats are wonderful. They're also a pain in the ass in their own way, but they're great. And so we were like, oh, let's get some more goats. But we had issues with the goats escaping. And so we thought, let's get some like bottle-fed goats so that they won't want to run away. They won't want to escape, right? And we did. We found somebody who was selling there's 2 bottle-fed goats. They had been raised together. They were buddies. We bought them. We brought them home. Got them all acclimated, and then put them out in the woods to eat the poison ivy. And they immediately escaped from the fence and tried to come over to the house because they're pet goats. They were bottle raised. They want to be with us. These other 2 goats that ran away, that we had to worry about them escaping because they weren't like acclimated to humans. Well, the upside of that is they were happy to just be in the woods all day eating the poison ivy. These goats, you put them in the woods, they're like, that's cool. If you hang out with them in the woods, they'll sit in the woods and eat poison ivy. That's not why I got goats. I didn't get goats because I want to hang out in the woods all day and watch the goats eat poison ivy. I want the goats to go to the woods and eat the poison ivy while I go in the house and I get shit done. Goats aren't okay with that. If the goats are out of their pen, they will come to my patio and they will sit on my patio furniture and just chill by the back door. And they will shit everywhere, all over my patio and patio furniture. I just look out my back door and there's just 3 goats sitting there and they're like, hey, you coming out? I'm like, go to the woods and eat the poison ivy. And they're like, nah, we're good. So now I have 3 pet goats. And they do eat brush. They eat my hedges and the front of my house. They don't eat any of the useful brush that I bought them that I wanted them to clear out for me. They just eat the stuff planted around my house and sit on my patio and shit all over my furniture. So, no, I don't milk them. They're fine. I'm bitching. I'm bitching because that's what you do, but it makes a good story. No, they're fine. They're delightful. They're effing delightful. Oh, they're also a pain in the ass. Gyro FN. Oh, crap. I looked at the time. It is 9:53. We got about 7 minutes left in the stream. Ciati FPV is going to start streaming on his channel at 10. So definitely stick around. He's going to start posting the link. And when I get off the air, then you can head over to his channel and watch his stream. I'm going to take a few more questions in the meantime. Can I reverse my pitch on Betaflight for the Cetus Pro? I'm new to FPV and I learned with my pitch inverted, so it's more like a game. Just wondering. Thanks. Okay, first of all, you're hurting me. People who fly with pitch inverted or whatever, you're hurting me. But okay, it's a free country. Do what you want to do. Yes, you can. Maybe. Oh, maybe. I don't know. That's actually. Ooh. Oh, hang on. What does the Cetus Pro come with? I think that you can invert the pitch channel in the Beta FPV controller. Does it run Betaflight? I don't know that it does. Does it or doesn't it? Doesn't it? If it runs Betaflight, you can reverse the pitch in Betaflight. Light 1 to 2S Pro Brushless FC. What the hell is that? Silverware. Okay, nope. I'm not convinced you can do anything there. So I think that you can go into the Beta FPV software. And it runs Betaflight? Blunty just broke in to tell me it runs Betaflight. So if it does run Betaflight, then you can... why does it say silverware? Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. You can go to the CLI and you can type RX range. And you see how it says RX range 0, 1000, 2000. Okay, one of these is the pitch channel. I don't know which. But you can type RX range 3, 2000, 1000. I'm going to zoom in on that so you can see it a little better. If it runs Betaflight and you put this command in, it will reverse the third channel. I don't know. Like 0 is throttle, 1 is roll, 2 is yaw, and 3 is pitch. I don't know the order off the top of my head. But if you type RX range and then one of those numbers and then 2000, 1000 instead of 1000, 2000, it'll invert that channel. So basically, just through trial and error, do like RX range 0, 2000, 1000, save. And then see which channel inverted. Okay? And then, if that wasn't the right one, first do RX range 0, 1000, 2000 to put that channel back. And then RX range 1, 2000, 1000. And that'll invert a different channel. Okay? So, that's what you can do. Just 3 more minutes left. We got a question from Travis Easterday. Thank you for a $5 super chat, Travis. And thanks for all the vids. Thank you, Travis, for watching. Thanks to everybody who watches the content. And Levi Hayes says, I just got my SkyZone O2Os today. When I go to the channel my quad is on, it has horrible artifacts. Any ideas? I'd love to see the artifacts, Levi Hayes. It could be interference, external interference. You can tell external interference because it happens in the same location. If you go to a different location and the interference goes away, then that points to external interference. Whereas if it's a problem with the quad, then it'll always obviously stay with the quad. I would also want to confirm for sure that you're on the right channel. Like if you're auto searching, I assume you're not because you said you go to the exact channel. But like sometimes the video transmitter can be on a different channel than you think it is. So you might try auto scan and see if it picks up a stronger signal on a different channel than you think you're on. You could be in pit mode. It's a little tricky. We'd have to know more about what video transmitter you have and so forth in order to solve that, Levi Hayes. Well, you're welcome to email me, as is everyone. But that is going to, could be the, Blunty, good point. The VTX could be locked. You could be on a locked channel. I think we need to sort of dig into this through email, so feel free to email me. That is going to bring us to the end of the stream, folks. Woo! Man, I feel like I'm getting through so many more questions now that Blunty is keeping me moving. What the hell? What is this? What am I even looking at here? Don't get stoned after watching the live stream and then go to the new open source AI image creator and, oh, these are AI images. This is Dolly. What the hell? Wow. That is... What the hell? Yeah. Seems about right. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to go. I'll see you guys next week, Sunday at 1 and Monday at 8, as well as tomorrow for the news at 6. In the meantime, head out to Ciati's live stream. Is the Crossfire Tiny Whoop real, or has April Fool's gone too far? The only way to know is to head over to Aaron Ciati's live stream and check him out. 661FPV asks, can't Blunty just answer the questions? Just to be clear, Blunty can answer the questions. He just would rather not. It's for him to speak on if he wants to. Yeah. We're a team. We're a team. I'm the Conan O'Brien and he's the Andy Richter. I feel like that's a complimentary comparison. You think about it if you want to. I am out of here. Good night, everybody.